Welcome to Part 8 of Sustainable Finance. My name is Gregor Weiss, and I am a professor of finance here at Leipzig University. In this chapter, we turn to sustainable investments, perhaps the most visible face of the whole field, the part your friends and family have probably heard of. This is the world of ESG funds, green bonds, and the promise that you can do well financially while doing good for the planet. Over the next few videos, we'll ask what that promise really means, whether the evidence backs it up, and when, if ever, sustainable investing actually changes the real economy. It's a topic full of hype, so our job is to separate what we genuinely know from what is marketing. Just to place us, this is topic 8 of 12. We've worked our way through the foundations: responsible investing versus shareholder value, corporate social responsibility, and how to measure it, sustainability reporting and ESG ratings, and then the big financial sectors, banking and insurance. Now we look at investments directly, how money is actually allocated with sustainability in mind. This connects closely to the next chapter, sustainable asset management. So think of these two as a pair. Today, the principles and the evidence, next time the practice of running the money. Here's what you should be able to do by the end of this chapter. First, understand the market for sustainable investments, how big it really is, and who the different sustainable investors are and what they want. Second, distinguish the main strategies: exclusion, best-in-class selection; ESG integration, engagement and impact investing. Third, and this is the heart of it, critically assess the evidence. Does sustainable investing pay, and is sustainability already priced into markets? And fourth, you should know the key instruments: green, social, and sustainability-linked bonds, and be able to follow the regulatory and greenwashing debate that surrounds them. 3 questions run through the whole chapter. First, why and how do investors integrate ESG into their portfolios? Second, does sustainable investing sacrifice financial returns or improve them? And third, the deepest one, when does sustainable investing actually change the real economy, rather than just reshuffling who owns which shares? Hold on to that third question especially. It's easy to feel virtuous by selling your oil stocks to someone else, but whether that changes anything in the real world is a subtle and important matter we'll return to again and again. Let's begin with Part A, the market and the investors. Before we judge whether sustainable investing works, we need to know what it is, how large it has become, and who is actually doing it. And right away, we'll find that even these basic facts are surprisingly slippery. Start with the sheer size and the fuzziness. According to the Global Sustainable Investment Alliance, global sustainable investments reached about $35 trillion in 2020. That's an enormous number, roughly a third of all professionally managed assets in the world. And here's a striking survey figure. Around 85% of investors said they consider ESG factors in some way. So on the surface, sustainable investing has essentially gone mainstream. But now look at what happened next. By 2022, that 35 trillion had fallen to about $30 trillion. Did sustainable investing suddenly shrink? No. What happened is that the definitions were tightened. When you stop counting funds that merely gloss their brochures with green language, the number drops. And that tells you something fundamental about this whole market. It is large, but its edges are blurry, and the headline figures depend entirely on who is counting and how strictly. Let me make that concrete, because it's easy to wave past a $5 trillion drop. What changed was not the world, but the ruler. In the United States, for instance, the main industry body simply stopped reporting a headline number at all, because so much of what had been labeled ESG integration turned out to mean a fund manager glancing at an ESG score and then doing exactly what they would have done anyway. Strip that out and trillions evaporate, not because anyone sold anything, but because the label was doing no work. So whenever you see a giant number for sustainable assets, train yourself to ask the follow-up question: measured how? That single habit will protect you from most of the hype in this field. So, who are these sustainable investors? The market is dominated by institutional investors, pension funds, insurers, and asset managers, and they increasingly demand ESG. That matters because it introduces a long delegation chain. Think about it in this way: the ultimate money often belongs to ordinary savers in their pensions and insurance policies. Those savings are handled by asset owners, the pension fund or insurer, who set the mandates. And those mandates are then implemented by asset managers, who actually buy and sell the securities. So the person whose values are supposedly being expressed sits at one end of a long chain, and the person clicking buy sits at the other. A lot can get lost in translation along the way. And because, as we just saw, sustainable investing is not clearly defined, estimates of the market size differ widely from one source to another. This delegation chain isn't just an organizational detail. It's the classical principal-agent problem in economics. The saver, the principal, wants their values respected and their retirement funded. The asset manager, the agent, is judged mostly on short-term financial performance and fees. Those incentives don't line up neatly. An asset manager might genuinely care about sustainability or might simply market a green fund because that's what sells this year, while managing it almost identically to a conventional one. And the saver, sitting at the far end of the chain, has almost no way to check. So, a recurring question in sustainable investing is not just what should be done, but who along this chain actually has the incentive and the information to do it. Keep that chain in mind. It will help explain a lot of what follows. Now, why do investors go sustainable at all? It's crucial to separate two very different motives because they lead to different predictions. The first motive is financial or pecuniary. Here, the investor treats ESG purely as information about risk and return. They might use it to manage climate and transition risk in the portfolio, or because they genuinely believe green firms will outperform in the long run. On this view, sustainable investing is just smart investing. The second motive is about values, non-pecuniary. Here, the investor derives direct utility, direct satisfaction from holding green assets and avoiding brown ones. Crucially, such an investor is willing to accept a lower financial return in exchange for that satisfaction. There's first evidence for this second motive from Riedel and Smeets in a 2017 study in the Journal of Finance. They found that investors' social preferences, not their return expectations, were the main driver of holding socially responsible funds. Many people are, quite literally, willing to pay to invest in line with their values. Why does this distinction matter so much? Because the two motives make opposite predictions, and confusing them causes endless muddle. If sustainable investing is driven by the financial motive, ESG as superior information, then green portfolios should earn higher returns, and we'd expect the advantage to disappear as everyone catches on. But if it's driven by the values motive, investors happily accepting less, then green portfolios should earn lower returns, and that gap should persist precisely because it reflects a preference, not a mistake. So the same activity, sustainable investing, implies higher returns under one motive and lower returns under the other. When you hear someone claim green investing beats the market, the sharp question is, which motive are you assuming? And is your evidence about the past or your expectation about the future? As we go through this chapter, keep asking which motive is at work, financial or values, because they pull in opposite directions. That brings us naturally to part B, the strategies of sustainable investing. We've seen the motives, now let's see the methods. How concretely does an investor turn a sustainability goal into a portfolio? It turns out there isn't one single approach, but a whole spectrum, running from the very simple to the very sophisticated. Here's the spectrum in its simplest form. 4 broad families of strategy, increasing in how deeply they engage with sustainability. The first is to screen, to exclude or select companies based on ESG criteria, the bluntest tool. The second is to integrate, to fold ESG factors into your normal financial analysis, treating them as just another input to valuation. The third is to engage, to use your rights as an owner, voting your shares, talking to management, to actually change how companies behave. And the fourth, the most ambitious, is impact investing, to intentionally seek and carefully measure a real-world positive impact. Notice the progression. As you move along this spectrum, you shift from simply choosing what you own toward actively changing what your companies do. And that shift from selection to influence is, as we'll see, exactly where the debate about real-world impact lives. In the next video, we'll open up these strategies one by one and see how they work in practice. Let's recap this opening video. Sustainable investing is a large market, tens of trillions of dollars, but a fuzzy one whose size depends on how strictly you define it. It's dominated by institutions connected to ordinary savers through a long delegation chain. Investors are driven by two distinct motives: financial, treating ESG as information, and values, where they'll accept lower returns to hold green. And the strategies they use form a spectrum from screening to integration to engagement to impact. In the next video, we dig into those strategies in detail, how exclusion, best-in-class, integration, and engagement actually work, and which of them can genuinely move the real world. See you there.